Hello and welcome to Past Your Bedtime. My name's Bev. There are a few themes that keep coming up in the farming news headlines lately. Whilst the very public demonstrations by farmers over changes in IHT abated slightly just before Christmas, spoiler alert, they haven't gone away, other stories have been queuing up to take its place. Supermarket profiteering, food security and imports are all important debates. But perhaps the news story taking centre stage at the start of this year has been the reduction in the price paid for milk to dairy farmers at the gate. Beyond the simple mathematics of farmers being paid less per litre than it costs them to produce it, there are a complex set of circumstances that have led to this. I touched on this subject in last week's episode with Neil Darwent. If you haven't listened to that one yet, treat it like a companion episode and add it to your list. A former dairy farmer, Neil has a rich knowledge of the dairy industry, and in part, it's been his driver for designing the direct-to-consumer model he's created, produce and provide. But on today's episode, I'm speaking to Sophie Gregory, dairy farmer, Nuffield scholar, and co-host of The Big Debate, part of the Meet the Farmers podcast. Sophie took time out to share her knowledge of the dairy business with me. Starting her career as an accountant, her and her husband Tom ignored pretty much everyone's advice, becoming dairy farmers in their mid-20s. And here she tells their story and provides a valuable insight into the milk price fluctuations, as well as describing the balancing act of managing not one but two farms while raising a young family and making plans for their future.
I think that farmers have only just come to LinkedIn. I feel like we have really, I've had it because, so I was an accountant before, so I kind of knew of it. And so that's why my name's like Gregory and then Applin in brackets, is because of the fact that most people know me as Applin amongst my work, amongst my accountancy. So I had to, because people are like, oh, well, why have you got both on there? But I knew about it then, but then I just thought, actually, it's every avenue. Most of the people who follow me on there are people who don't actually know anything about farming. They're corporate people who actually are quite interested where their food come from.
Yeah.
So that's why I put it on LinkedIn, because I think it's another avenue to open the gate without actually having people on farm. We have people a lot on farm, but not everyone can do that.
Yeah. Well, where are you based, actually?
I am in Dorset, so near Lyme Regis, so Dorset Devon border. Yeah, it's really nice.
Nice part of the world.
Yeah, it's pretty special. We didn't choose it, actually. It's just where the farm came up. So so it was just by accident, as in it's a beautiful part of the world. We're very lucky, but we just were looking for a dairy farm. So
and at that time, were you prepared to go anywhere?
I mean, probably within 3 hours of where we were. Yeah, we were pretty keen by that point. We had cows that were ready to calve. We'd bought stock and things. We thought we'd got another farm, and then it didn't come off. So we actually had bought all these stock for ready to calve, and they were starting to calve. So we had no way to milk them. So we were just looking for any opportunity, really. I think when you get going, you just have to go for something.
But no regrets. Nice.
Oh God, no, absolutely no regrets. It's been blooming hard work. We went into the farm with a business partner who had 80% of the business. We had 20, and then we bought him out 18 months ago. And then we took on another dairy 6 months ago. So we're 2 dairies now. And we're pretty, I suppose we're still quite young. We're quite ambitious, but we've got quite grown-up kids, because we had kids very young. So my eldest is 16. So he's already thinking about maybe, what he wants to do, and he's quite keen on the farm. So we've sort of always had that a bit in the back of our minds that we need to make space if any of them do want to. So So, and we're not ready to step back yet. So it's kind of we're very much encouraging him to go off to university or go traveling, have a different boss before coming home, because I think he kind of needs a bit of perspective. And I think it's that sort of second generation that sometimes, they've been given something. Also, we will make him buy into the business, which isn't probably that typical. Just because I suppose we set it up, and we had to. There was no gifting involved in it. So
Yeah, it's a good lesson
yeah,
for him. So I read a piece that you wrote a little while ago where you said this is kind of not what I would normally put out there, but here goes. These are my thoughts of the day. And
yeah.
you gave quite an account of your beginnings and where you were studying, and then you started a family. And it was quite a remarkable story. At what point did farming come into the mix? Because you, as you say, you started out down sort of the accountancy route, and I've obviously done that for some time, and you know, started a family. But when did the farming bit pop into your life?
So Tom, my husband, wanted to go dairy farming when I met him I met him when I was 16, and I just thought it was sort of like something that would go away, if that makes sense. I thought he would like give up on that dream. His dad had sold the cows when he was 10. So it was just like he always wanted to go back to it. Everyone encouraged him not to, and his family, like it was just not a thing. There are two family farms. One's a dairy, one's not a dairy, and both weren't, we weren't offered either. Like there was no option of either. Probably the best decision, like the best thing that happened was that, probably, because it's just meant that we've had quite a lot of hunger to grow and to do something for ourselves. Yes, we took on the farm. Yeah, we were 24 and 25. So 11 years ago it was, nearly 12 actually. And we basically could have done a smaller farm and done it alone, or go in with a business partner, which is what we did. So we found someone we were already working with on rearing some veal. So taking his bull calves, he was TB restricted. I think he had 5 dairies at the time. So we took all his bull calves, reared them till 9 months and sold them. And we were like 50-50 in that. And then we sort of always said, if a farm came up, what do you think? And he was always a bit like, no, no, no. And then this farm came up, and it was big enough for both of us, if that makes sense, us and our business partner. And we ended up with it, which was pretty incredible because the milk price was pretty good then. So it had a lot of people apply. Even people from Ireland. It was crazy, actually. Probably the combination of an experienced person and then someone enthusiastic and keen. So I think that's probably what got it, and the financial security of our business partner. So yeah, we were very lucky, but I never planned to come to the farm, as in I was going to carry on with my accountancy job when we moved here. I did one milking and then just fell in love with it. So I probably love the cows more than Tom does, if I'm on it. Like I love milk, like I actually love being in and amongst it. It's probably been a great thing taking on a second farm, because it's meant that we've got one each to focus on. I literally don't go to the other farm, not in a horrible way, it's not in my capacity. And I think it's good that they know Tom's the boss and that he deals with the team over there. And, I know them, and we socially, as a group, we have a like WhatsApp group between the two farms and, all of that. But I don't need to be telling them, oh, that looks messy, or I don't want to go there, sort of interrupt their routine. So, that's how we ended up here. I mean, it has been hard work. It's been very hard work. I think doing it with 3 kids has been hard work in terms of finding the right balance. But I think we went hard at the right times, and we're sort of reaping the rewards of working seriously hard to buy our business partner out. So now we can not relax, but we have got a good base behind us, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And am I right in thinking you don't have a robotic milking parlour?
No. It's normal. It's called a herringbone. It's what you call a 30-30, which is basically 30 cows can be in the parlour at one time. It's 15 each side, and it's a double up parlour basically. And it was here when we got here. I think it's about 25 years old. Still works perfectly fine. And then at the other farm, they've got an 80 side, which is quite old, older even, and they're going to do something different with that. So they are thinking about robots, just because we're tenants there. So doing a whole new parlour might not be the right way to spend money. And we can take robots out if we need to, if that makes sense. and it's a more high yielding herd over there, like higher input herd over there, whereas at home it's a very sort of low input organic system. So, it's not, the robots are great for people. Well, they're great for certain people. I mean, I just love actually milking the cows, so I suppose it's not it's not a part of the job that I want to give up.
I hear that it's good if you don't want to be tied to that morning and afternoon shift, because the cows will work out when they need it, and there's a constant sort of throughput through the day. So but it's not something that's necessarily in your plan to do for the farm.
No, not for home anyway. And we would be grazing like 10 months of the year. So it's very hard for us where our grazing is. So like the fields we graze, to access them, because they'd need access to the robots the whole time as well. So it's quite hard because there's roads, they would be crossing roads on their own.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously they wouldn't be allowed to do. I think the village would say something about that. But the other farm is not, it's like ring fenced. So they could easily graze with robots. So grazing robots is actually very doable. And we've got friends who do a really good job with it, but you need land that doesn't have roads going through it. It needs to be like accessible fully on its own.
Unless you employ a lollipop lady or something.
Well, exactly. No joke. I mean, I spend some of my time being that lollipop lady when they do go over the road. But yeah, so it's not in our, it might be in our plan for the other farm, but definitely not at home.
Yeah. So given the discussions that are around at the moment about milk prices again, now me with my non-farming hat on, which is permanent, by the way.
That's okay.
I remember in my early teens the discussions in the press about the Milk Marketing Board and milk prices. It's not a topic I've followed over the years, but it seems now to be at the forefront again, when I had wrongly assumed that there was a fair price being paid to farmers at the gate for milk production. It was just a question of whether you wanted to scale it or not. What's the impact to you as it stands, and where do you think that's going?
I think the Milk Marketing Board's an interesting one, because whenever we go into a low price, everyone wants it back. And then when we're high, we feel happy to be part of sort of free trade and a global market. I think it's difficult. I think we're always looking for solutions when the price is low.
Yeah.
I think I personally prefer a market price, because I know that's actually what it's worth at the time. At the moment, we are in oversupply. You can't get away from that. And that's globally. So it's definitely not just the UK.
It seems ironic to me that with all of the innovation and technology that is out there, and it allowing dairy farmers to produce higher yields, it's actually sort of bites you in the arse now, because everybody has improved their yields to the extent that there's oversupply.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of self-created problem.
And I think it's interesting, because actually the herd size, so the actual amount of dairy cows in the UK is actually dropped. It's just we're producing more milk per animal. There's a couple of contributing factors. One being quite a big part of the UK was in drought this summer, which meant that then we actually had quite a low commodity price in terms of grain. So the people were feeding quite a lot of concentrate instead of feeding forage, because they didn't have the forage. So that just meant that cows were in very good condition going into the winter. So then that meant that they milked a lot better. And also the silage that was made is pretty high quality, because it was actually short. It's been cut. There wasn't very much of it, basically. So what the forage was there is pretty good. So exactly. And I think the combination, it's the perfect storm, really, to be honest. Also, there was a few things within Europe and America that were stunting production. One being in America that that they had avian influenza, which actually really knocked production over there, especially in California, which is like absolutely massive. And I think there's crazy stats around American production, but like an uplift of 1% is sort of 3/4 of Irish production for the year. So it's just like, it's a crazy, it's just a powerhouse in terms of dairy. And then within Europe, we have blue tongue. And I don't think well, in the UK was definitely nowhere near where it was in Germany, Denmark. You know, they were really hit by it earlier on than us. And I think by that point, a lot of us had vaccinated, or some of us did, some of us didn't. You know, you made a choice for your herd. So that not only affected production, but also reproduction in Europe. So all those things were holding back milk, even though the milk price was really good and the feed price was very low. People weren't producing because they had a barrier there, like either a health barrier or forage barrier. And then when all those things corrected, we just saw this massive flush. Also, China's just not as active in the market anymore. They used to be like a massive buyer of milk from Europe and from the globe. They still buy milk, but I think it's families have one child now averagely. I know we had the Chinese one child, but that then was released and then people had more and then we're back. And they had a massive policy around how much as an adult you should drink or eat of dairy. And there was a big government push. Now we've got less people. The population has stunted growth a bit. So there's not actually as much demand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that market is just not as active. And we used to rely quite heavily on exporting, like depending on who you were as a processor, you would export. But there's other developing markets. It's just been a perfect storm, really, like just too much milk around. And small percentages with milk massively add up. So like 1% here, 2% here is like globally a lot of milk.
Yeah. So what do you do if we go into this year and the weather is as unpredictable as it was and maybe another hot summer and a couple of droughts? What can you do differently to protect the business?
I think just a lot of it is actually we have to have a buffer, which is expensive, a buffer in feed. So we just need more and more land to produce that buffer. We seem to always use what we have in stock. It's quite expensive making silage. I think it's okay in a good year. We're organic at home and then conventional at the other farm. So the organic has actually been okay during this low, is holding at the moment. But that's mainly because in 2022 we had a terrible time and about 30% of the pool left. So our milk pool left and went conventional. So it takes 2 years to convert to organic. So we've got a bit of a delay in how much milk we've got, if that makes sense. So we've actually we're not, we haven't had enough and the utilization's been pretty good. So we're holding at the moment. And so, you know, the organic place is quite good, but it's not been in the past. But the conventional was just free falling. I think you just, at the moment, we're doing costs for this year, looking at them for something called CFP, which is comparable farm profits, and then comparing them amongst our peers. That's a really useful tool. It's on us to just drop costs as much as we can, but also then not affecting the business. You don't want to drop them too much that the business isn't, you know, able to actually work or be efficient. But that's, yeah, I mean, it's just on your own farm, it's making sure you know where you are, I suppose.
Yeah. And just like everybody else facing input cost challenges, has that forced you down a route of diversification in any respect, or was that something you always wanted to do as part of the whole farming ethos to branch out and do some different things? I know you did some stuff around education on farm visits.
I think, we've always done the on-farm visits for a long time, but we never, you know, we did a couple a year for local schools and our kids' school, but then it became more of not a commercial, because it very much is probably cost neutral with the payments because of actually what goes into it. But it's just important to us. It's one of our values on farm is opening that gate and not just for the consumer, but also for the next generation of like farmers. You know, a lot of our staff haven't come from a farming background, so they, you know, is giving opportunities back, I suppose. Diversification wise, we haven't really diversified. We've done a bit of beef when we've been shut down with TB. We've got a couple of houses we rent out. I do quite a bit off farm work wise, but that's probably just, well, I think I like the diversity of having different things. And then, yeah, just the podcast was just a lucky opportunity that interviewed for a position. Ben asked a few people to interview for it and then ended up doing it. I've always wanted to do something, but wasn't really sure what. And I didn't really have the capacity to do it myself because I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the time to learn the skills. So, I mean, I'm just hoping it just gives, we're learning a lot through doing it, but just tackle some of the big issues happening in ag at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm fascinated by people's just ability to stick with it. I think it's nice to find people with stories and backgrounds and unusual takes on how they ended up in farming and the characters that are in farming. And I'm in North Yorkshire now, and I'm not short of local characters to talk to, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what does farming actually really mean to you at the end of the day, especially through the tough times? How do you just keep going, or do you feel like those incidents are in the past, that now it's a known quantity, I suppose?
I suppose it's a known quantity that the market will come right, because it's never not in the past. I think sticking to it, I'm not going to lie, there are days when it's really difficult. It's given me purpose. I think it's given me a bigger purpose than I ever expected. I think it's given me community. I was a bit lost because I didn't do university. I did like the accountancy, but I didn't love it. I did it because I thought it was something good to have, and it's something I could have done because Harry was only 6 weeks old when I went and studied. So I thought it was something I could do around him. And if you look at CEOs, it's like, I think it's 1 in 10 are either engineers or accountant trained. Like, it's pretty up there with skill set, and I think it's very transferable. But I think the farm's just given me greater purpose. I'm not naturally very good at farming. Like, it doesn't come naturally. I'm sure.
What do you mean by that?
I think, maybe stock does, as in to look after stock comes naturally, but the tractor side absolutely does not come naturally to me. The understanding of the crops and stuff, I have no clue. I don't get involved in the arable side of the farm because A, I don't really like tractors, and B, I don't really understand how and when, and I think it would take focus off cows, if that makes sense. I love cows. I know how to milk cows. I know when a cow's not right. I know when a cow's hungry, all of the lame cow, all of those things, but I'm not, I have no excitement. I suppose I'm not naturally a farmer who loves tractors or anything like that. We've got others in our team who have that love, but I'm just not interested. Anything that costs me money like that, not interested.
There's the accountant coming out in you.
Yeah.
So what do you think it's going to look like for farming in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you ever sit there and think about where is this industry heading, or you're just too busy running your business and living life on farm and all that gives you?
I think we're probably going to see a big shift in technology, but I think that started. But I think we are a lucky industry that we're needed. So people eating it isn't going to go away. So I'm not worried about us being replaced.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, I expect more people will go down the route of robots and things, but this doesn't interest me. I think we're going to have to be inventive in how we employ people, probably, because the next generation are very different. They're not naturally, you find a few, but they're not naturally as hungry to work as the generation before, I don't think. But that's maybe a bit harsh, but it's not, they haven't got that same, there's other things that they work-life balance is way higher up for them than it ever has been, is what I'm trying to say. We've got a great team here, but I don't think, none of them are asking me for extra days work. They're very happy. And I've got one girl who works 4 days a week. She's happy, she's very happy to do that.
Yeah.
It's very different. And I don't know how many coming through are as hungry to farm in their own right. I think there are some unique ones, but I don't think there's as many as our generation was, because it's hard work. There's easier ways to earn money.
Yeah, I spoke to a farmer recently, and he was talking about the minimum wage, that there's a safety net now almost that youngsters spend on stuff they want to do outside of work is lower than it was in his day when, you know, he wanted to go to the pub every night and he might sink, 6 pints or whatever, and then do something on the weekend that costs money. And his view of it was that they have got lower costs because the things they want to do are quite insular. So stuff you can do from home, online, gaming, but a bit more introverted and not needing that cash flow to be out spending all of the time. It was a really interesting take.
I think I agree with that, and a lot of them still live at home. Like I just don't think people are buying houses as young now.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of people,
it's
so
almost completely out of reach, isn't it? To be saving for a deposit.
Yeah. So I think that's some of it as well. You find 25, 30-year-olds living at home if you've not met someone, or not, if you've not with someone. So it's very different, isn't it? And I think COVID probably added to that.
Oh, yeah.
I think people, very much did remove from society. We had to, didn't we? So
yeah,
I think that was a bit of it was, and it drove a few costs up. Cost of production drove a few costs up in COVID, and cost of employing people, availability, and what people want to do. That minimum wage thing. You can go and earn as much, and if you're not careful employing people right in the right way, you can go and earn as much in McDonald's. So or Audi, or for no responsibility.
Yeah. So, do you think farming should be taught in schools?
Yeah, I mean, it should be embedded in the national curriculum. I don't even know if it needs a separate topic, but it needs to be embedded, as in, when you're talking about weather, you could talk about how it affects the food you eat, how it's grown, all of those things. Like, there isn't anything that farming doesn't tick the box of, maths, cooking, all of those things. I think it's more than just food. It's food and farming and the environment, because I don't think you can get people to care as adults about the environment unless they've been exposed as children. So I think that's part of it as well. There's just such a big thing around, it's a big disconnect from food. Actually really shocked me. A few of the teachers who came from a great school nearby, some of them didn't know that the flour was wheat. So it's even, that side.
The teachers.
Yeah. And so I just, we've got a long way to go, but I think it's really exciting. I mean, we love it. And, even kids, we do pancakes for them just because it's an easy thing to do, flour, milk, eggs in the classroom. And, some of them I reckon 9 out of 10 of the kids have never cracked an egg. This is like 9, 10-year-old kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something, and then, not much cooking at home.
Yeah.
As in, like, there was not much cooking at home. And that's not me judging at all. It's just we all live busy lives now, and society has changed around the importance of sitting up and eating as a family. We're guilty of it, absolutely.
The convenience factor is coming to. Yeah, I mean, I'm old enough to have sort of learned at my mum's elbow how to make things. I've got terrible memory, and if you asked me what the ingredients of a pancake were, I'd have to go and find a recipe. But
but you know where flour comes from. Like, that's the thing, isn't it? It's how disconnected, like, we're sort of, everything comes in bags or packages, or doesn't it? It's very but I think there's great opportunity. There's loads of farmers doing a great job at debunking some of these, and that's why I think that, love it or hate it, social media, it's actually done a lot for that bit of it, because especially for careers in ag, because people see farming that they wouldn't see, if they didn't have TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but I've got it, but I don't really understand it. My kids have tried, but I think I'm a bit old for it. But they probably wouldn't even think about farming if it wasn't on there. And it's just where they get all their information from. You can't ignore it. It's there.
Yeah. You are you're lucky enough to be exposed to people, influencers, and voices within the industry. Did you do your recording yet with Minette Batters? Was that yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, so
just great, Minette. I mean, I know her pretty well, just because of because of NFU, but also, I suppose, not being a woman in ag, but we've been at the same things, and I just know we've got we've got a similar juggle, I would say. She's obviously a bit older than me, but she's been through, kids, a farm, and doing big off farm stuff. She's great, and very, she knows about most things within our sector. I think within ag, she's very well versed on farming, and that piece that she did is, pretty vital. I just want to know what's going to happen next with it. We all do. Whether the government are going to listen, or whether she's going to be allowed to make some of the changes. But yeah, it was really good yesterday morning. Yep. So it's out now. It's just come out. So it's,
Oh, the recording's up already.
Yeah, it's just come out.
Ben is so efficient, isn't he?
He is, yeah, he's great. I mean, he puts pressure on himself. Originally, we were going to be recording them on a Friday morning and releasing in the afternoon. But then, luckily, Ali, my co-host, he shoots on a Friday. So he was like, it's just not going to work for me in this shooting season, because it's like, it's on their farm. Like, it's a syndicate. It's not he's going shooting on someone else's farm every week.
No,
it's like their local. Well, exactly. And he's like doing the shoot, like organizing a lot of it. So
yeah,
it just wasn't going to work. So luckily it's every other week.
I don't know when I'll publish this episode, but I've just put out on LinkedIn that I'm moving to weekly episodes, because I started this in November and needed to give myself time to get some in the can, if you like, ahead of time, so that I wasn't under pressure to find people who would say yes, because I didn't know who would. And then wrap my head around all the editing stuff. And also the thing I found is that there's some conversations that were very current when I did the recording, that if it's then uploaded 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, as was happening, it's old news now. And it's just moving at such a pace with all of the topics around agriculture and the variety of subjects you can talk about under that umbrella of agriculture. For me, I'm just trying to settle into my groove of the stuff that people find interesting, primarily the stuff that I find interesting, that I want to know about.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? That we've ended up having to do a couple of like emergency ones, because things have come out like IHT and Manette's report, and just a few bits that we had to do extra, because we thought if we don't get on them, we've got to go to Scotland on Tuesday just for the day for a recording, because it is in person, so it just needs to be in person, which we were going to do the next in person, but logistic here didn't work.
Well, I'm looking forward to listening to that one. I think that's probably the only other farming, well, there's a couple of farming podcasts that I listen to, but that's the sort
Me
of
too. I don't listen to our own, as I try, and I don't like hearing my own voice too much, but I don't listen to actually that many farming ones, because I like listening to other sector ones, like other business ones. Like, I quite like a story of a business, how they set up. Like, I've just read Steve Jobs' book about Apple. I just like the background, because you can learn things from them about business and mindset and all of those things. They're all transferable. But I try and steer clear of too much ag.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to transfer across into agriculture, having come from a business background? Any advice?
Depends what type of farming they want to do. But if it's, dairy's always pretty hungry for labour. So I think that just approaching your local farm and seeing if you can volunteer a bit to begin with. And then there is often opportunities. I've had people come for a couple of times and then come on for us. It's all follow people online. But I think there are, ag colleges are full of people from different ages now, and there's lots of different courses. You don't have to be 17, 18. I had a really nice girl called Lisa she did like I think it was a degree level, but she just had to have her A levels, or she's in her 40s. She did a degree in animal science, and she's now working within nutrition, and she absolutely loves it. But she came and spent a couple of weekends with us on the farm just because she wanted some real life experience. I think it's just going out on farm, and things like Open Farm Sunday are great just to dip your toe in and understand different sectors. But the best way is to immerse yourself and go and find a local farm that don't mind having you for the afternoon, or
volunteering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate where I've moved to. I'm surrounded by farms, and there's some really great people, generous with their time and
Yeah.
happy to talk, happy to explain things. So I've bent that kind of quite a bit to try and get
Brilliant.
in to understand I was reading something this morning. Someone was having a pop up about the Llama exhibition, and I get where they were coming from. That it's like Llama has changed, and he was asking the question: is it all about influencers now? Is it all about people doing, promos and big personalities? Oh, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? I just wondered if you've got
Yeah.
any views on that.
I mean, it's not for me, but I don't, that's not what my socials are about. The only thing we do is I've got two businesses who, one business who we use their chemicals and they come and do like trial stuff with us and use our farm for footage. But I'm sure if you ask my followers, they wouldn't think that I'm trying to get them to buy, I recommend it because it's great and we use it, but I don't, I'm not out there selling it. But I don't, some of our team went to Llama and they absolutely love it. And I suppose if it creates some positivity around farming, then what is the harm of it? But it's also, we have to be real about the fact that farming is pretty hard for some people right now. It's not, flashy things aren't in the grasp of everyone right now in farming. So it is difficult, but I mean, the world's moved quite far and it's not for everyone that. And if they're doing a communication piece around agriculture, then, I'm not anti it. I just, as long as people are realistic, if things have been gifted, that kind of stuff. But I don't, I think it's great that people open their gates to virtually open their gates to the public. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. But as long as it's informative, that's the thing, but it's inspiring younger generation to get into farming, then I really don't see the harm in that. I'm not anti. I didn't go to Llama. I was at Positive Farmers, which the grazing conference, but I don't think I would go because I'm really not a tractor person. Like, I know loads of people go for the social, and our team did. Lottie, our main girl who loves cows, she's not a tractor girl at all. She went because her friends were going. It's a social thing for them.
Yeah,
they're not going there to look for a tractor.
Yeah,
they're going there with their friends. I think any harm, it's the same with Clarkson's Farm, isn't it? People sort of dig on that. I think it's done a great thing for the sector. The amount of people going into ag colleges is up. I also think it's given some reality. Yes, some of the stuff on there is not reality in terms of, we're not going to go and buy that type of tractor. But the actual hardship of TB and things like that is absolutely highlighted. Not last year, the year before, I did quite a lot of traveling because I was doing what's called a Nuffield Farming Scholarship. Every country I went to asked me if I'd watched Clarkson's Farm and if that's what it was like farming in the UK. So if that's like what it's doing, and also it does promote the high standards of British produce amongst it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I haven't actually personally watched it. I think I maybe watched one episode, but that's because I understand farm. I do like Clarkson. I have no problem with him at all. And we used to watch the Top Gear a lot, but I just haven't. I don't really watch much TV. So, but my kids love it. Like my older two absolutely love it. So, I don't think it's done a bad thing.
Do you think we need another? Because there have been farming programs. I mean, I didn't have a TV for about 14 years before I moved up here, and anyway, won't bore you with why I then ended up with one. But I had been thinking about moving across into agriculture before I ever watched Clarkson's Farm. But then, of course, I did. Everybody said, "Oh no, you should. You really enjoy it." But do you think? And I've noticed there's beyond Countryfell that there's half a dozen other life on the farm type, fly on the wall, shepherdess type stuff. Do as you say, is it if it's promoting the discussion, if it's opening people's eyes into the world of farming, then it's all good, right?
But I think a lot of people get their like what they watch now from YouTube. Like I think that they do like a lot of those bloggers or vloggers, whatever they're called. That's where they get their farming watches from. So I think they release stuff. I don't watch them, so I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that they're like a regular thing. So then people like follow that farm, and I think that's quite interesting. I don't know whether we need another Clarkson's Farm, but Clarkson, Amazon, it had a big budget, so you know it was able to show was able.
What I've heard him interviewed, and he didn't think it was anything beyond that first series. It was a bit of fun, or for him, it was a bit of an experiment to see if you could make it work.
I'm not sure he needed the money, but yeah,
he absolutely says that. He's upfront about the fact that he obviously has got enough money to rest on. But for him, it was just, he thought his car followers would find it interesting and quite funny, and he would just see what happened. But then it just exploded. It was, just a complete revelation. So looking ahead to this year, then, what's in your plans for this year? Any changes in innovation?
Not on farm, I don't think. I suppose we're sort of the home farm's pretty static now because it's established, but I suppose the other farm for Tom and his team will develop in, they're still very much setting it up. We've not got to spring yet, and fences and all of those things. So I think it'd probably be like a stabilizing year for the business. I think we're always open to opportunities if they're the right thing, but we're probably past taking on things for the sake of taking on things. So I think I've got lots of things that I want to achieve personally off farm, but that's just, I think that's just personal goals. We set goals quite a lot. So I'm looking forward to having a bit of a mix between the farm and off farm. I really enjoy traveling for work and not work. So hopefully I'll get a bit more travel in, but we'll see. Depends what the milk price does.
Yeah, I guess it does all rest on that. Well, it's really lovely talking to you, and thanks so much for popping up and and approaching me. I want to come back to people and find out how things have changed. So I'm sure we'll talk again before the end of the year, and I'm bound to see you at some event or other.
Yeah. No, I think it's important when people are trying to start out that you support people that, that don't have the foot into the industry naturally. So I think that's really important. That's why I think, I thought, give you an opportunity to understand our part of the sector. Because we're all so different, arable, sheep, and beef, we are so different.
I have another interview to do today with a former dairy farmer who's now moved across into helping farmers who want to sell direct. We're pretty sheep heavy around these parts, but there is a dairy farm about 10 minutes up the road, and I saw him, must have been about October time, and just still trying to pin him down for an hour to have a chat online. So yeah, as I say, there's so many topics under the agriculture umbrella that you sort of turn the corner and then another subject crops up, and then I go down a rabbit hole following that and geeking out about hedge laying or grouse management or whatever. So
good luck with it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
That's all right. Well, if you need anything, shout.
I will do. That's great.
Thanks to Sophie, and thanks once more to you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like or share or leave me a review. It really helps to increase the audience numbers. Next week, I'm returning to the subject of arable, but arable with a twist. I'll be talking to a farmer who's turning a little corner of Lincolnshire into Little Italy, and that's not easy to say. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. And so, if it is past your bedtime, perhaps it's time to turn in. Until next time.